The elephants are, as they are in the proverbial story, the thing that's sitting there that nobody wants to talk about, but is clearly a problem.
Well, what business leaders need to understand now is that everything is transparent in society, so also behavior, and the shadow of a leader has more influence than the spoken word of a leader. For example, you cannot be a company anymore today that makes bold commitments to attack climate change by 2050 when we really need to start going and halve the emissions between now and 2030. Employees, society will see through that.
So there's a number of things that we say, look, you can't be positive in the world if you don't address these things that business knows it has a problem with. These are known problems. It's things like, do you pay enough taxes? Are you paying any taxes as a business? How much does the CEO make and the C-suite make versus everyone else in the business? That ratio has just exploded for years. It's unacceptable.
You cannot be a company anymore that says, I'm going to be very bold in my climate commitments, even extend it to scope 3, which is your whole value chain, but then actively use your trade associations to lobby against any government regulation that tries to attack the issue, like a price on carbon, or like infrastructure projects that might have a small tax increase associated with that. You cannot, on the one hand, say we want to be sure that we are part of the problem and solve the issues of food security, but then actively spend money in politics to influence election outcomes, to be honest, because it serves you for the short term of your company. You cannot expect CEOs to get the sympathy of all their employees when during COVID you try to tighten the belt and all chip in a little bit, but then you see the bigger salary increases happening at CEO level.
How much corruption is there in the business? Do you have to pay fines and bribes around the world to get your business done? Is that the only way to do business? How much have you addressed human rights issues? How inclusive really are you on diversity and inclusion? And a handful of others that really challenge these things that seem like they're on the outskirts of a business, but really get at the core of what do you really believe and how consistent are you? And consistency is really core to being a net positive business. No one will trust you if you're not consistent in all the things you do.
It was very interesting during COVID to see that some of the first companies that were asking for government bailouts were actually companies that had positioned themselves in tax havens and had never paid tax. But when they got under pressure, it was the government that needed to help them. So people started to speak out and say that doesn't work anymore. And what we find increasingly is that companies that pay people more, that actively work on getting diversity in their value chain, that ensure that there are living wages and human rights standards being adhered to, that these companies are actually more resilient and more profitable.